So without further ado, I'm calling our colleague Professor Neil Eccles to the stage. Yeah. Well, I did it almost yesterday, right? For those who saw. But yes, over to you, Neil, for the Aloe.
Thanks. And no, I'm not going to talk about post-structuralism now. Because I know this is the moment you've all been waiting for, with great anticipation. It's time for me to announce the winner of the Aloe Award for the best conference paper. I do feel there should be like glitter bombs and fire.
Okay, it is there, you just see it.
When I say this, I must say, just if nothing else, just to distract you from the fact that this is really the graveyard shit of the conference. And right when I was sitting up there thinking about this, and I was thinking, actually next year we need to plan this a little bit differently. So I think we should have on the second evening we should have our wine and formal dinner, and we should have the announcement of the awards there, rather than on this last day when half the people have gone back to Mozambique. My friends who I wanted to speak to. Okay, but let me get on with the award. I think it's just important for me to say something about how it is that we go about deciding which is the best paper. Just to put this in a bit of context. So, I mean, the first thing to mention is that for very practical reasons, like the fact that there's parallel sessions, we only incorporate or include those papers which are submitted as full written papers. Okay, so we don't take abstracts into consideration. And judging is based on the written paper. This is important, because sometimes the written paper is not necessarily the best, or the best written paper is not necessarily the best presented paper. Right? I mean, because writing and presenting are two different things. That's not necessarily the case in this year, but it's just something to bear in mind. So this is based on the written papers. And then in terms of how we decide which is the best written paper, it's very simple, and it's something that I've not always been entirely comfortable with. But basically, the editor-in-chief of the African Journal of Business Ethics, which at the moment happens to be me, reads the papers and chooses the best one. It's all very democratic.
Very transparent.
Very consistent with my demography. But, you know, let me at least be transparent in terms of how I went about the process of deciding which was the winner for this year. So we had a total of 5 full papers which were submitted. The first 3 that I want to mention were really excellent papers as early first versions of a paper. Every single one of them had traces of what I think is an award-winning paper, but not quite there yet in terms of the final polishing. And I really want to encourage the authors to like put in that extra work, do the extra stuff, and at the very least submit them to the African Journal of Business Ethics when they're ready for publishing, because Lord knows we need good papers. Which basically left us with 2 papers which I think are really polished enough and ready for, to the extent that they're basically ready for submission for publication and therefore contenders for the award. So the first of these was Nina Rousseau's paper entitled The Teaching of Business Ethics, Understanding the Purpose and Current Approaches, and this was presented virtually. And the second was Jacobus du Toit's paper, Education, Mediation, not Meditation, Mediation, Litigation and Whipping Boys and Solving Disputes based on the African Ubuntu philosophy within the South African context. And this was obviously a face-to-face paper presented yesterday. I mean, both these papers obviously had strengths, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about them. They also had, putting it in inverted, weaknesses. Or perhaps putting it more positive psychology spin on this. They both had really fascinating debate points of discussion, points which could stimulate thinking. And you know, I think that's the sign of an excellent paper always. Nina's paper looked at the issue of teaching business ethics, obviously, and I must declare I have a particular interest in this, having tried to do this for the last 15 years my own self. I emphasize tried. And really it looked at 2 particular models, very organized models. And I must say that from a moral philosophy perspective, this was really technically very precise and very correct in that regard. Jacobus's paper, on the other hand, flirted at this nexus between the law and ethics. Uncomfortable space. I mean, in my view, like sometimes the lines were blurred uncomfortably, so there was a bit of discomfort, but discomfort is good. And And in attempting to do this, he also attempted to inject it into the discussion. So in the final analysis, the decision as to which paper was going to be the winner actually came down to a very simple distinction. Both papers were excellent, but the distinction was really based on alignment with the conference themes. And on that note, this year's Aloe Award goes to Eccles du Toit. So let me, Eccles, don't worry, I'm coming up there. Because these steps, like, yeah, yeah, I'm not very used. Oh, I don't stop. Pictures?
Hello? Yeah.
We are really small, unless she's got one of those maximum cameras.
No, I do have a pretty good Zoom actually. Okay, I'll come closer. Think it's better? Why would you go?
I was just going to check, this event afterwards, so.
No violence. And once again, congratulations, Eccles. In fact, I must tell you that I reviewed your paper, so we can have a conversation later. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, just wait a second. Sorry, just wait a sec.
I started to tell the story of King David in a very interesting way to illustrate the problem of procedural justice. Procedural justice is a principle that if you kill the witness, then there is no case to be made, and then procedural justice was served. But then an ethicist entered the scenario in the story. And the ethicist's name was Nathan. And Nathan also told the story to King David. And he said that there was this poor guy who only had one lamb, and then the rich guy took the lamb and slaughtered it and make a feast for his friends and so forth. And now we enter into the realm of sorry, my mic stopped working now at the end of the conference due to my disability. But we enter the environment where we see the justice served for the injustice of the procedural injustice. And the woman was married to make an honest woman of her. Bathsheba was married to King David. And then his son, although he was not the firstborn and had the right to the kingdom, in the distributive justice system, he became the king and then honored his mother, who was most probably, in some versions, raped, and so forth. And we as ethicists must come into the picture after there was a failure of procedural justice by killing witnesses, or the law was not completely understood and so forth, that we can ensure that the real justice is achieved. That is my call to you as ethicists, to play that role, to remove that law, make good laws, and play an active role in that environment. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again. That is phenomenally done. Thank you, Neil, for your work as well on all the paper reviews. I know it's no easy feat, I'm sure.